Welcome to Finding Forgiveness, a family fairy tale podcast. Join host Susan Gibson as she summons the courage to ask the hard questions, probes deep, dark secrets, and attempts to fill in the gaps while exploring the relationship between her and her mother. Discover the magic of self-discovery, relationship exploration, and the profound journey of forgiveness. Now, your host, Susan Gibson.
Have you ever wondered who your allies are? Who those individuals are who love and support you, who encourage you, who listen to you, who are there for you no matter what? We can feel so alone in our life at times. And there are societal norms that tell us we should be able to manage our life on our own. By identifying our allies, we realize that not only are we not alone, but that we need others to help us in our life. In preparing for this podcast episode, I listed out my allies throughout my life. It gave me such warmth and love to reflect on those who have loved and nurtured me along this way. What is an ally? Here's a definition according to dictionary.com. A person, group, or nation that is associated with another or others for some common cause or purpose. A plant, animal, or other organism bearing an evolutionary relationship to another, often as a member of the same family. I roughly knew the first definition. However, the second definition was new to me. I hadn't thought about ally in the context of family. And though it's defined as part of the natural world around us, we are also organisms in the natural world. So it follows that members of our family should also be our ally. There are family members on my ally list. There are also friends and colleagues, teachers and caregivers. I've talked about being raised by a village in an earlier podcast episode. Well, it takes a village to thrive in this world of ours. Let's start with family members as allies. For me, these are my earliest allies. My father has been my ally from the beginning of my life. He loves and supports me, listens to me, offers guidance when needed, and is there for me no matter what. We know how to navigate the ups and downs that happen in our relationship because we know we can rely on one another. For me, it's like knowing the earth is beneath my feet and the sky is above. I can count on him unconditionally. Both of my grandmothers were my allies. They both passed away many years ago now, but when they were alive, they embodied unconditional love for me. I could count on them no matter what. My mother was my ally in my early years. I know she loved and supported me, or loved me anyhow, throughout our life together. However, I felt her as an ally most when I first started school. I started kindergarten in 1967. We were fighting the war in Vietnam and experiencing civil unrest here in the United States. Thurgood Marshall was confirmed on the Supreme Court. NASA was trying to get a man on the moon. The Doors, Aretha Franklin, Jimi Hendrix, and the Beatles were all topping the music charts. A Man for All Seasons won 6 Academy Awards that year. The 25th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was enacted, defining the succession of the presidency. Loving v. Virginia was brought before the U.S. Supreme Court. They declared that U.S. state laws prohibiting interracial marriage to be unconstitutional. and my mother was taking up the cause of her daughter getting too many vaccinations at school. In those days, we were immunized at school against such things as polio. I remember that one specifically because it was administered in a sugar cube. When my mother would ask me what I did in school, I would say I got a vaccination. She started keeping track at how frequently I was saying that. Turns out it was too frequent. So she took time off from work to see the school nurse. Well, and it turned out there was another Susan with the last name of Giberson. I was getting her vaccinations and my vaccinations. Mom put an end to that. It surprised me when I created my list of allies that this was the earliest memory I had of my mother as my ally. As mentioned, I know she loved me throughout our life together. That was never questioned in my mind. I doubted it sometimes. I'll say it that way. But whenever I doubted it, I always challenged that doubt. I said, no, that's just not possible. It's not possible. However, the support part has not always been so readily apparent to me. And particularly with her second husband, Ed, I lost her being an ally during that period of time. She never supported me, never went to bat for me in those teenage years when we were living together. And, that is one part of a complicated puzzle that led to our estrangement, was the lack of being an ally for me when I really needed her to be there for me. So I was quite happy, actually, when I did this list, just off the top of my head, that she was there as a very early ally. I appreciate her being there very much. Friends as allies. I'm thankful to have a close group of friends who I can rely on no matter what. It's not a large group. Only a few people are in this group. We are mutual allies. I would do anything for them and they would do the same for me. Anything within our power. And would go to extraordinary means and measures to make sure that we're taking good care of each other. They've been incredibly important to me throughout my journey of forgiveness with my mother and throughout my life. They don't carry the family legacy that my family allies carry. My friend allies are able to see me for who I am today. They're able to see me for who I am in every moment that we spend together. And that's what's needed when you're finding forgiveness. You need people who love and support you, who will guide you when you need it, who will listen to you as you work through the trials and tribulations of forgiveness. And I would say the trials and tribulations of life in general. We need to have allies around us, and we need to have a variety of allies around us in all parts of our life. Family, whoever identifies as your family, your friends, and then what I call the everyone else is an ally bubble. Coming from a background of mathematics, I do visualize in terms of Venn diagrams. And I even, when I was creating my list of allies, I drew a Venn diagram of the three bubbles. My family as allies, members of my family, my friends as allies, and then the everyone else as an ally. And they are Venn diagram there. They're overlapping circles for sure. Is some friends are like family to me, are my family. My everyone else bubble, contains my some of my teachers, my caregivers, and my mentors over the years, and certainly some of those overlap with my friends as an ally at certain times in my life, and as well as family. Caregivers in particular are that crossover, even if we weren't related by blood or marriage, if you will, but still definitely a family tie there. Each of them saw my gifts even when I didn't. Each of them opened my eyes and my mind to something new. Each of them helped me realize my potential. My 7th grade English teacher, Mr. Ketch, recognized in me my duality, that I was intellectually advanced at that time, looking at my peer group, his assessment, looking at me in relationship to my peer group, and that I was socially adept, that I was gregarious, and people and friends and schoolmates, were all very much part of my circle at that time, and that they could, I could play with them, I could interact with them, I could compete with them academically, I could debate with them in the classroom, I could lead them in civic responsibilities and duties, and I could be part of the band playing with them, could be part of the cheerleading squad, all those things that I was doing at that time in my life. But Mr. Ketch gave me the freedom to express myself at that time, and through the love of English and reading and research and creating projects based upon what I was reading. And there was no limit to the types of books that I was reading. He really kind of gave me that freedom to explore. I was in the 7th grade, and I was reading Alexander Solzhenitsyn's Cancer Ward, and creating this multimedia project as part of my book report for that book at that time, as one example. It was a time when I had a lot of upheaval in my home life. My parents were divorcing, my mother was leaving, was going through a lot of physical changes as well, starting to enter into puberty, starting to menstruate, a lot of change happening within me and around me, and having someone like him to show me how I can express myself through reading and discussing what I was reading, creating projects, these multimedia projects around what I was reading and presenting that to the class, talking to my dad about me and the feedback that he had for me and the observations he had for me. And that allowed my dad to see what did he need to do as my ally to love and support me and to nurture me at this time in my life. My senior year calculus teacher, Mr. Daigle, opened my mind to higher level mathematics. I loved it so much that at first I didn't pursue mathematics in college because I thought it would be too easy. Luckily, after a year in pre-med, which was definitely not my calling, I have great admiration for people who are in the medical profession and any kind of first responders out there. You have my absolute admiration. It definitely was not my calling. I found my way back to mathematics. And my college counselor at the time suggested I do a double major of mathematics and computer science, a course of study that set me on a professional career path in technology, which I have loved ever since. And, this was kind of pioneer days in terms of computer science. I mean, it wasn't the very beginning of the academic discipline and professional pursuit, but it was the first time the department had opened and offered courses in my university, University of Southern Mississippi, and this would have been 1981. I started college in 1980. My mathematics advisor, again in college, who worked with me on my senior thesis project, we delved into the world of theoretical mathematics through an obscure theorem called Bézout's theorem. And Bézout's theorem states that two parallel lines intersect at infinity. He is Professor Fay. He totally opened my mind to the possibility of theoretical mathematics. And again, recognizing this duality in me, because my love of mathematics was there, and I love the theoretical mathematics, that field of study that's out there in the world. And I love the practical application of computer science. And so this senior thesis project that he and I worked on together, it was perfect for me because I could use my computer science skills to create a model that approximated this theorem in order to prove it. And it was just an amazing experience for me. And, this set me on the path of working for a small defense contractor. When I graduated, I worked as a developer, doing, guess what? Writing models to approximate solutions to the wave equation, a theoretical equation that cannot be solved in its full form. And these approximations, this is the business of a lot of defense contractors out there. This helps our Navy to hide and seek in our oceans. And so that duality around the love of the theoretical mathematics with the practical application of computer science, has led me into just amazing work in my professional career. All of these 40 years now since I graduated from college as an undergraduate. And then my mentor, I had this amazing mentor when I left the defense contractor and I took a job with a large global consulting company. He gave me just invaluable guidance. I would consistently get feedback that I wasn't assertive enough. And, this was the early to mid 90s. And the big consulting companies were big news in those days. They were private partnerships. They were extravagant and, attracted highly competitive, highly energetic, enthusiastic, kind of type A's that are out there. And, I am not a forceful speaker. I have my kind of ways of influence and things like that, but I am not going to be the loudest person in the room. I am, I'm going to find my way in order to make my way. But this mentor that I had, he helped me understand how I can be that influencer as a business consultant. So I was getting these consistent feedback that I wasn't assertive enough. Otherwise, my performance reviews were right where they should have been, either met or exceeded expectations and everything else. So he took the time, he was a partner in the firm, he took the time to observe me and to give me feedback in the moment, to give me books to read, to recommend workshops that I should attend, and various learning opportunities that would help me better understand who I was, how I was showing up, and how I could influence others. And, he really helped me to understand how others perceived me. And that was the beginning of my kind of curiosity around how do I show up for others. I hadn't really had anybody take that role on with me beforehand. And this was in a professional setting. So it was super important to me in my career development and career advancement to have this incredible mentor. And it wasn't only how others in the company perceived me, but how did clients perceive me? Because, partners are definitely focused on increasing the wealth of themselves and the value delivery to clients. It goes hand in hand. And so he knew that I would never be the loudest person in the room, that I would never be the one competing for airtime with my colleagues and clients. Okay. And that I was never going to go against my personal values and natural disposition to be someone who I wasn't. He knew that I couldn't fake it and be influential. I definitely appreciate that because that was a time when, Dress for Success was kind of the handbook. How do you dress? Everything was considered, uniformity was celebrated in those days. And uniformity meant, mimicking the behavior of those who you saw as successful around you, those who are making it in that corporate environment. Very different environment than what I had experienced in my, first career with a defense contractor. And so he realized and recognized in me that I was not going to jeopardize who I was. I was not going to lose myself in that mimicry of others, that I needed to find out a way to kind of make it in that corporate and consulting world and stay true to who I was. And so what he did know is that when I spoke, people listened to me and that this is a gift. He also saw that I could influence people quietly and calmly, and that others would follow me in that quiet, calm way of interacting with clients and colleagues, and that this is a gift. So he helped me understand my gifts. He helped me to leverage my gifts to become a highly engaged business consultant. And this started me on the path to eventually starting my own business consulting company with my life partner. And I've always been a consultant. All these 40 years that I've been working in technology since I graduated from college in 1984. And, I'm grateful to have all of these allies who have been with me throughout my life. They're so important to me. I feel loved. I feel supported. I feel listened to unconditionally. This brings up a curiosity about my mother. And, who were my mother's allies in her life? Some friends were her allies, absolutely. Close friends. I know she's had talked to me about childhood friends who really came to her aid when she needed them. Friends that were that reciprocal. She was an ally that was reciprocated. She was an ally for them. They were an ally for her. Some of those friends crossed into that family bubble as well. A friend as a family member who were an ally for her throughout her entire life. They listened to her. They supported and loved her unconditionally, no matter what was going on. And that is super, super important. She had colleagues and mentors who were her allies. those who gave her a chance to show her expertise and to hone her expertise in the field of accounting. She was on that track through high school. And when she graduated, she got a job as a bookkeeper. And she, even as a child, I remember her talking about her first boss, how supportive he was of her, giving her the opportunity to really hone her skills as an accountant. And that set her on a lifelong professional pursuit as an accountant as well. She also had, family members who were her allies. Her mother was her ally, even though there were times they didn't always see eye to eye. And much like my ally with my father, uh, because of that relationship that you have, you're able to navigate those ups and downs and know that no matter what, you will always be there for one another. You will always have that love and support. And that's important to know, that you have people like that who are surrounding you. And during one of my guided meditations, I love to meditate, and this one was a 30-minute meditation. The guide started with some wisdom from Rumi. Invite guests in, and then look at who's coming in through the door. Welcome anybody who shows up. And my grandmother, Mary, my mother's mother, showed up for me right away. She's a strong ally of mine, always had been. I'd been calling for her for about a week leading up to this meditation, something that my therapist had taught me as a technique, when I need some extra love and support, to call on my allies. And even though, some of my allies have passed away, to call on them. And so when I did during this meditation, she did show up, and I was so glad to see her come through this door. I tried inviting my mother in. I felt I needed her eagle energy. She has shows up for me in my dreams and my meditations as an eagle, but she didn't show up. Instead, her protectors showed up. Her father and her two brothers. They're all passed away now, and we're at the time of this meditation. And the three of them surrounded me with love and affection, as they did as a small child. They're very, very loving, kind family members. My grandfather and two uncles, my mother's side. But as with meditation or visions or dreams, you have that view of being centered in it, and then you have a view of seeing it from above. And so when I could see what was happening from above, I could see that they had come in through the door to protect my mother. I'd been calling for her. And what they did, they showed up very loving and affectionate towards me, but they had surrounded me. And that was a form of protection for my mother. And what that tells me is they were such strong allies for her, and continue to be in whatever place and space they are occupying to this day. I don't know why they felt they needed to protect her from me in that moment, or protect Mom in that moment. I'm interpreting it as protecting from me, but not necessarily the case. But I took comfort knowing that they were there for her no matter what. And that's what being an ally is all about. We're not alone in this world, though sometimes we feel as if we are. And so I encourage you, create a list of your allies. It might surprise you who's on it. I had surprises on my list, people I hadn't thought about in a long time, people who had a profound impact on my life. I thank each and every one of them for being my ally. And I'd love to hear who your allies are. You can email me at hellosusan@findingforgivenesspodcast.com. Thank you for being with me today and listening to my podcast, Finding Forgiveness, a Family Fairy Tale. I welcome your comments. A big thank you to the team at Produce Your Podcast for helping me share my family fairy tale. Until next time, I'm Susan Gibson, signing off with gratitude and appreciation.
Thank you for listening to Finding Forgiveness, a family fairy tale podcast. To continue the conversation, visit findingforgivenesspodcast.com and send an email to hellosusan@findingforgivenesspodcast.com to share your story. Until we meet again.